Inside Buckingham Palace, the annual pre-Christmas lunch unfolded with its usual warmth, laughter, and royal formality. But one name was missing: Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. His daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, arrived smiling through the palace gates, but their father was nowhere near the royal table. Instead, he was captured miles away, navigating the wet Windsor paths on horseback, alone. For a man once seated at the center of royal life, the visual of his absence was deafening. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. That image, mirrored against the backdrop of his daughter's inclusion, marks a profound transformation in how the monarchy draws its lines. This wasn't simply about holiday seating, it was about sending a message. The divide between public acceptance and internal loyalty is now more visible than ever. By allowing Beatrice and Eugenie to participate fully while keeping Andrew at a distance, the royal family is tightening its reins around scandal, showing that even blood ties don't outweigh the crown's need for preservation. On a rainy December afternoon in Windsor, Prince Andrew was spotted riding a horse alone, his coat soaked, his posture stiff, and his expression unreadable. Just miles away, inside the walls of Buckingham Palace, the rest of the royal family had gathered for King Charles' traditional pre-Christmas lunch. The contrast could not have been more stark or more telling. While the monarchy smiled and posed for photos, Andrew was out in the cold, both literally and symbolically. There was no official statement about his absence. No one mentioned his name as the black cars rolled up to the palace, dropping off Princess Beatrice, Princess Eugenie, and other senior royals. The palace didn't need to say anything. Andrew's absence spoke volumes. The optics were crystal clear. This wasn't some last-minute scheduling conflict. Royal insiders say the exclusion was deliberate. The annual pre-Christmas lunch has historically been a full family affair, an opportunity to reinforce the image of unity and tradition. But this year, King Charles drew a line in the sand. Everyone else was invited. Andrew was not. Even more interesting is what this move signals about the king's position. Despite being his brother, Charles appears firm in protecting the monarchy's image at all costs. After months of headlines about Epstein-linked controversies, Charles isn't willing to risk the optics. Letting Andrew show up to a widely photographed event like the Christmas lunch? Not an option. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. Meanwhile, Andrew's daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, arrive at the palace dressed to the nines, smiling for the cameras like everything was normal. Their attendance only deepened the divide. It was a quiet message: they are still part of the fold. Their father isn't. Observers were quick to note the symbolism. Beatrice, often seen as especially close to her father, appeared poised and upbeat. There was no public sign of discomfort. The contrast between their participation and Andrew's isolation adds to the growing perception that even within his own immediate family, there are new boundaries. Of course, none of this is happening in a vacuum. Andrew's fall from grace has been unfolding since his ties to Jeffrey Epstein became public knowledge. The now infamous BBC interview, the legal settlement with Virginia Giuffre, and the loss of military titles and public duties, it's all part of the same downward trajectory. The royal family made its choice then, and what we're seeing now is simply the long tail of that decision. Public scrutiny hasn't let up, and with each passing year, the space between Andrew and the rest of the family gets wider. The royal strategy seems clear: maintain ties with his daughters, keep the door shut on him. If there was ever a moment to test the waters of reconciliation, a family holiday gathering would have been it. Instead, what we got was a symbolic rejection. Body language experts chimed in after seeing photos of Andrew on horseback: tense shoulders, distant eyes. One analyst called it resigned defiance. Another said he looked like he was performing exile. It's a powerful image, a disgraced royal riding alone while his family celebrates without him. The message isn't just that he's not welcome, it's that he knows it. The royal family, despite all its traditions and public displays, has never been great at emotional transparency. But actions speak louder than press releases. And while smiling faces filled Buckingham Palace, Andrew's absence served as a ghostly reminder of the scandal still hovering around the monarchy. Some commentators have pointed out the way the royal family manages internal sadness or conflict by turning up the charm in public. Princess Catherine was seen arriving with Prince William effortlessly poised, despite the subtle undertone of internal strain. In contrast, Andrew's emotional state was put on display unintentionally. What adds another layer to this whole situation is a looming change in Andrew's living arrangements. Reports suggest he's preparing to move out of Royal Lodge, the sprawling estate he's called home for decades. Instead, he's expected to relocate to a smaller residence on the Sandringham estate. It's not just a move, it's a demotion. Sources say many of his belongings have already been moved into storage. Downsizing in this context isn't just about square footage, it's about status. Royal Lodge symbolized legacy and entitlement. A smaller, less prominent home signals a step further into obscurity. There's also been speculation about whether Andrew's situation echoes or contrasts with that of Prince Harry and Meghan, but the difference is sharp. Harry and Meghan left by choice, controversial, yes, but they had agency. Andrew's departure from public life has been enforced. The Sussexes still command media attention, still sign deals, still give interviews. Andrew, by contrast, is silent. The royal family's decision to keep Andrew completely off-camera while continuing selective relationships with other controversial members shows how carefully the lines are drawn. It's about control, about keeping scandal in check, about making sure no one steps out of line again. Behind the scenes, Queen Camilla is believed to be one of the driving forces behind these firm boundaries. While Charles may be the face of royal unity, Camilla has reportedly played a key role in shaping who gets included and who doesn't. Her focus on preserving the monarchy's future, especially post-Elizabeth, has been unwavering. There's no indication that Camilla is advocating for Andrew's return in any way. In fact, insiders suggest she views any association with him as a reputational threat. Her stance, much like the king's, leans toward drawing sharp lines, no gray areas, no soft invites. So where does this leave Andrew? Right now, on the outside looking in. His horseback ride on the day of the family Christmas lunch wasn't just a coincidence. It was either a quiet protest or a reluctant symbol of reality. Either way, it cemented his position, separate from the institution he was born into, excluded from the traditions he once helped uphold. The royal family isn't trying to hide this divide. They're making it visible. And that visibility is part of a broader message. The crown may be hereditary, but participation is earned. And Andrew, for now, hasn't earned it back. As the images of Prince Andrew's solitary ride circulated, the reaction was immediate and unforgiving. Commentators didn't see a man enjoying a quiet afternoon. They saw symbolism. They saw exclusion made visible. A former senior royal, one second son of the Queen, now moving through Windsor without ceremony, without company, without acknowledgement. What stood out wasn't just that he was alone, but when he was alone. This wasn't a random weekday. This was the same day his family gathered for one of the most photographed social events of the royal calendar. The timing sharpened every detail. The rain, the stiff posture, the lack of interaction. It looked less like coincidence and more like a statement, whether Andrew intended it or not. Inside Buckingham Palace, the atmosphere could not have been more different. The pre-Christmas lunch has long served as a controlled display of royal stability. Cars arrive in sequence. Guests step out smiling. Cameras click. The message is predictable and intentional. Tradition continues. Everything is fine. This year, the event did exactly what it was designed to do. It projected unity. But the unity came with a noticeable absence. Andrew's name wasn't spoken. His presence wasn't missed, and no effort was made to soften the visual contrast between him and the rest of the family. The palace didn't blur the edges. It sharpened. King Charles' role in all of this is impossible to ignore. As monarch, he is responsible not just for family relationships, but for the survival of the institution itself. Every decision is weighed against public perception, and Andrew remains one of the monarchy's most persistent reputational liabilities. By excluding his brother from the lunch, Charles reinforced a message that has been building for years. This is not temporary. This is not a pause. This is a boundary. The king has shown no interest in gradual reintegration, no appetite for symbolic gestures of forgiveness. The silence is intentional, and the absence is permanent, at least for now. For Andrew, the most painful element may not be the palace doors closing, but watching them stay open for his daughters. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie continue to move comfortably within royal spaces. They attend family events. They are photographed. They are welcomed. This separation feels surgical. The royal family has carefully removed Andrew while preserving his bloodline connection to the institution. It's a way of limiting damage without severing every tie. For Andrew, it means watching his daughters participate in a life he no longer has access to, a quiet reminder that the exclusion is personal. None of this can be separated from the Epstein association that continues to shadow Andrew's public identity. No matter how much time passes, the connection remains a defining factor in how he is viewed. The royal family understands this better than anyone. There is no scenario in which Andrew's presence at a public event doesn't immediately reignite those headlines. Every appearance would reopen questions the monarchy once closed. Every photograph would carry baggage. From an institutional standpoint, the calculation is simple. Exclusion is safer than explanation. Andrew's withdrawal from public life has been nearly absolute. Since losing his military affiliations and royal patronages, his world has shrunk dramatically. He no longer represents the crown. He no longer speaks on its behalf. He no longer appears alongside senior royals. His attempt to maintain privacy, even citing data protection laws in relation to personal financial matters, underscores how far he has retreated. This is not the behavior of someone preparing for a return. It's the behavior of someone bracing for long-term. The expected move from Royal Lodge adds another layer to the narrative. Royal Lodge has long been associated with status and permanence. Leaving it behind marks a clear shift. Moving to a smaller residence on the Sandringham estate is not just practical, it's symbolic. This transition mirrors Andrew's broader trajectory. Less space, less visibility, less significance. The physical downsizing reflects the institutional downsizing already underway. It's a tangible representation of his reduced role within the monarchy. What we are witnessing is not a family dispute playing out in public. It's a controlled distancing. The royal family has chosen clarity over ambiguity. Andrew's absence is no longer subtle. It's obvious, and it's deliberate. Whether Andrew's solitary ride was an act of defiance, resignation, or simple routine doesn't ultimately matter. The image has already done its work. It captured a reality the palace didn't need to explain. One man, one central, now sidelined. One family moving forward without him. The starkness of Prince Andrew's ride wasn't just about optics. It was about isolation. You don't need a press release to understand the meaning of a drenched, stone-faced former royal circling Windsor Great Park alone while his family eats roast pheasant behind palace gates. That's not ambiguity, it's strategy. For someone who once moved through the world with a quiet confidence of inherited privilege, Andrew's current reality is a sobering contrast. Once a heartbeat away from royal centrality, now left to find symbolism in silence, he is more ghost than duke, seen, but no longer. King Charles has, by all accounts, maintained a cool and consistent stance. Despite their shared childhood, their shared lineage, there's been no visible softening from the monarch. That's not pettiness, it's PR. Charles is acutely aware that a misstep with Andrew could redefine his entire reign. He has inherited not only the crown but the crisis management blueprint left behind by Queen Elizabeth. But where she often led with quiet tolerance, Charles seems to prefer calculated boundaries. His recent decisions, publicly leaning into environmental issues, modernizing palace staffing, and now firmly managing family optics, make one thing clear. The future of the monarchy doesn't include room for reputational risk. There's an undeniable shadow that Andrew can't outrun, no matter how many low-profile rides he takes through the countryside. The Epstein connection isn't fading. If anything, the memory is calcified. That infamous BBC Newsnight interview, his stumbling denials, the sweat defense, the Pizza Express alibi, has permanently etched itself into public memory. The fact that he reached a multi-million-pound settlement with Virginia Giuffre without admitting guilt hasn't helped his case. The royal family may have hoped that would be the end point, but for the public, and by extension, for the institution, it marked the beginning of Andrew's irrelevance. From that point forward, every attempt to re-enter the public eye has been met with now. As reports swirl about his looming departure from Royal Lodge, it feels like the final nail in the coffin of his former life. Royal Lodge is more than a home. It's a status symbol. Handed down through connections and steeped in royal tradition, it anchored Andrew's identity as a senior royal, even after his fall. Moving out isn't just about the bricks and mortar. It's a final signal that even his private privileges are being peeled back. And the fact that much of his furniture and personal effects are being placed in storage, that doesn't scream temporary move. That screams we're not sure where to put you anymore. And still, his daughters remain within the fold. Princess Beatrice and Eugenie continue to appear at royal events without controversy. It's clear that the palace has decided not to extend Andrew's punishment to his children. Strategically, that's smart. The public may reject Andrew, but there's no widespread appetite for punishing the next generation. Still, the optics are sharp. When Beatrice walked into the Christmas lunch smiling beside other senior royals, she wasn't just a guest. She was a contrast. The palace doors were open to her, and by extension, shut firmly on her father. Whether she supports him privately or not, her public presence without him makes a very loud statement. Behind the decision-making, Queen Camilla's influence is increasingly evident. Royal insiders suggest that she's become one of the monarchy's more pragmatic voices, especially when it comes to reputational management. Camilla understands what public forgiveness requires. After all, she had to win it herself. There's no indication that she's pushing for Andrew's return. Quite the opposite. Camilla reportedly sees any re-emergence as not only premature but dangerous. In a media environment that reacts faster than it reflects, a single photo of Andrew in a family setting could undo months of brand repair. And Camilla's not here to play rehab therapist. She's here to protect the crown. The royal family, for all its traditions and theatrics, is still a machine that runs on public perception. Every gesture, every appearance, is pre-approved and pre-analyzed. Andrew's exclusion is not emotional, it's mechanical. The machine has identified the risk and removed it. By showing the family gathered inside and Andrew isolated outside, they delivered their message without a word. They didn't need to speak to the press. They let the image go viral. And the silence that followed, that was the answer. Even within the tight-lipped royal circle, there are cues that speak volumes. Princess Catherine, always graceful, always prepared, carried herself with her usual composure as she stepped out of the car for the family lunch. But her restraint seemed sharper this time, as though aware of the fragile optics hanging over the event. As the Princess of Wales continues to step further into the spotlight, her role becomes more symbolic by the day. While Andrew's story is one of contraction and exclusion, Catherine's is one of rise and responsibility. The quiet dignity of her appearance, contrasted with the storm Andrew rode through, painted an unmistakable picture of who represents the future and who doesn't. If Prince Andrew hoped his quiet ride would pass unnoticed, the media response made sure it didn't. The imagery was too perfect for analysis. The disgraced Duke, shrouded in mist and rain, riding with no entourage, no destination, and no role. It read like a press photo from a movie about exile, and to many, that's exactly what it was. Critics and commentators wasted no time labeling it a pitiful message, a term that stings more because it lands close to the truth. The man once known as a spare to Charles, the royal with decades of privilege and access, has been reduced to a symbol of what happens when scandal outweighs status. The horse may have been moving, but Andrew's image is stuck in controversy, in rejection, in public. And Charles? He didn't blink. There was no last-minute olive branch, no behind-the-scenes leaks about private sympathy. The message from the top remained firm. This isn't a misunderstanding, and this isn't temporary. The monarchy doesn't have the luxury of nostalgia. For Charles, the lunch wasn't just about family. It was about branding. The future-facing firm, united in tradition, but unafraid to prune dead weight. In his mind, that likely includes Andrew. After all, keeping the monarchy relevant means keeping it clean, and Andrew's mere presence muddies that water. What's fascinating is how controlled the chaos is. The royal family has learned from past scandals. They are not over-explaining. They are not denying. They are simply freezing him out. This is exile by omission. No drama, no declarations, just a subtle, strategic fade to black. And that's what makes this entire episode so chilling. The silence is louder than any statement they could make. There's no tearful interview, no defensive press release, no attempts at damage control. Just one man outside in the rain, and the rest of the family inside smiling for the cameras. That's a monarchy in 2025, tight-lipped, bound, and no longer willing to bleed for its own. Now, as Andrew prepares to leave Royal Lodge, there's a finality that can't be ignored. He is not just losing square footage, he is losing the last pillar of permanence he had left. The estate was his safe haven, his proof that some ties remained. But as moving vans come and storage units fill, that illusion crumbles. The move to a smaller property on Sandringham is more than practical. It's symbolic. Andrew is being relocated, repackaged, and quietly placed where the public can't see him. Out of sight, out of mind, and more importantly, out of the headlines. The royal family has turned the page, and whether Andrew likes it or not, he's not part of the next chapter. If you've been watching this unfold and wondering whether Andrew's exile is truly permanent or just a very long time out, we want to hear your thoughts. Is there a path back for him, or is this as far as he goes? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this breakdown as jaw-dropping as that solo horseback ride, hit the like button, share it with a friend who loves royal drama, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next royal shocker. Because in this family, silence is never just silence, it's strategy.